Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Apex Racing TV, and welcome back to the Operation eMotorsports Racing League. This is round number 3 of the season, coming to you tonight from Road Atlanta. My name is Ron Mons. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Bichelle, and in the virtual production hall, we have Jonathan Grabaski. Charles, we head to yet another iconic American track today, stopping off in Braselton, Georgia tonight. We've done a lot of broadcasts together of races at this track. I love this track, you love this track, so I think it's fair to say that we're just going to have a good time tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a fantastic race course, both in the sim and in person. I have been lucky enough to travel over for Petit Le Mans, fantastic venue, lots of great places to watch the track all over the, watch the race all over the track. So yeah, looking forward to the race tonight. Another great crowd on hand to do this event. 40 plus drivers, it looks like, again. So looking forward to an absolutely fantastic race tonight.
And we got 43 cars set to tackle this 2.5 mile long 12-turn road course, a staple of American sports car racing. Of course, the Petit Le Mans held every single fall, which is one of my favorite sports car events. And Charles, the last time that we did this series together back in the fall of this past year, we had to take a break because of a lot of these drivers moving over to Road Atlanta and being a part of the cruise and all the festivities for Petit Le Mans this past year. So it feels rather, I don't know why, it feels kind of like a homecoming coming to this track for this series.
Yeah, it really does. And yeah, this the thing that we talk about is not only are these guys out here racing in the sim, but Operation Motorsport does a great job of getting their beneficiaries fitted in with teams, especially in the Michelin Pilot and the WeatherTech IMSA series. So yeah, it's great to be able to run this race, and I'm really looking forward to it tonight.
Now, a lot of these drivers that we have out there on the racetrack do have experience working with some IMSA teams and being part of real-life racing festivities, and of course being a part of this eMotorsports League as well. Currently in this qualifying session, open 10 minutes long, so all of these 43 drivers having to share the track at the same time. Real tough conditions for these drivers to find themselves in, but as these drivers look to get a little bit of clean air and find their way on to the running board, just want to give a quick flashback as to how things have been thus far this season. It's been a really brilliant ride. thus far, and we've only had 2 races, Daytona and Indy, 2 Roval layouts, but 2 fantastic racetracks. Nevertheless, we're off the back of a win for Ken Copeland 1 week ago at Indy. He won it in the pro class, won it overall, and there you can see him right now in that Wrong Stuff Mustang. Got a decent amount of experience covering Ken Copeland and covering races that he has been a part of. Nice to see him here in the Operation Motorsport Series. That number 15 car is fast. However, we've got a lot of heavy hitters in that Pro GT3 category. Your current provisional pole sitter is Corby, who won the opening race of the season at Daytona. Ran into a little bit of hard luck 1 week ago at Indy, but he is still a very hard charger in this series. Was on to the provisional pole, but Ken Copeland jumping in front of him. Those two playing itchy and scratchy at the moment.
Yeah. I think that's going to be the battle that we're going to be watching for the majority of the series. Is Copeland and all in that pro class. But we've got other things to keep our eye on. We got once again Tyler Gilmet versus Greg Meisner in the pro bin category. Ian Carney's having a great start to his season and being in the bin class, so we'll be keeping an eye on him as well as we move forward here in qualifying. We're 4 minutes in. All Copeland up on the top of the board as per usual.
And looking through some of the other categories that we have in the Pro Ben class, it's currently Tyler Gilmet, your provisional pole sitter there. He's off the back of a win at Indy 1 week ago, and currently the only driver to set a time at the moment in that Pro Ben category. Let's see if Gregory Meismer is out here tonight and will set a lap time between now and the end of this session. Gonna move on to the Ben GT3 class, where Ian Carney has been the dominant force thus far. Your current provisional pole sitter in that number 54 Porsche, which is working very good as a lawnmower, heading on the outskirts to turn number 4 right now, but he has 2 wins thus far this season, looking to go for 3 straight here at Road Atlanta, and a pole would certainly help him out in that class. Moving over to Open GT3, where this man, Jacob Little, in the number 74 Mustang, is off the back of a win at Indy 1 week ago. However, he is not your provisional pole sitter, as it's Beeman currently on the pole. Mustangs locking out the poles in both the Pro Ben, and the Open class. I said both like it's 2, but it's 3.
Yeah, and Carney with his Porsche. We talked to him last week, and that's his car. There's always schools of thoughts when we're having racing and iRacing is, do you take the hot car in the class, or do you take the car that you're more comfortable with? And Carney is obviously showing that taking the car you're familiar with provides you some great benefits, like sitting on pole for this race.
And the pole position going to be important around this racetrack. Overtaking still going to be a little bit easy, but just grabbing that pole and grabbing those bragging rights to come with it certainly going to be important for these drivers. But as we're still in this qualifying session, I think we should talk a little bit about Operation Motorsports and all of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes to make sure these events on iRacing are as cool as they are. Operation Motorsports is a veteran-led and operated 501c3 nonprofit foundation based in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Bryan, Ontario, Canada, serving American and Canadian service members and veterans. Operation Motorsports is based on 3 core values: team, identity, and purpose, and supports the recovery of medically retiring or retired service members and veterans affected by military service through motorsports opportunities. Operation Motorsports motto is 1 at a time, so if you ever see hashtag 1 at a time, now you know that behind that hashtag is a wonderful cause supporting veterans. Veteran recovery opportunities utilizing motorsports opportunities, veteran recovery opportunities that instill a sense of team, identity, and purpose, veteran recovery opportunities through the lens of diversionary therapy, motorsports immersion, and academy programs, veteran recovery through motorsports 1 at a time. Visit operationmotorsports.org to learn more. And for season 11 of the Operation Motorsports eMotorsports iRacing League, we are beyond excited to kick off another incredible year of racing action and kick off this season as well. We've got something very special for this brand new season. New for 2025, we are proud to announce that Operation Motorsports beneficiaries racing in the Pro Beneficiary and Beneficiary categories now have access to virtual coaching using Trophy.ai services. This partnership is designed to help these incredible competitors refine their skills and become even more competitive out there on the racetrack, all while boosting their confidence at the same time. This initiative supports the eMotorsports diversionary therapy program, which creates a thriving, supportive community community for medically retired service members, and veterans with service-connected disabilities as recognized by the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs or the Veteran Affairs of Canada. It's a space where participants ranging from active duty to veterans can come together, train, and race in an inclusive virtual environment. This season, we have 15 Operation Motorsports beneficiaries competing, and we could not be prouder to have them out there on the racetrack. Let's show them some love as they continue to break barriers and redefine what's possible in the world of iRacing. And for this season as well, we would like to thank the continued support of CrowdStrike and Michelin for their support of the Operation eMotorsport and the Operation Motorsports organization. We would like to thank all of them for their work. Now the minute and a half left to go in this qualifying session. Charles, more drivers setting some times on the board, but the only big jumper has been Manning jumping up to the Open GT3 pole.
Yeah, Tyler Manning's jumped up to that pole position in the Open class in his McLaren 720S. So, we had the Fords kind of dominant there for a bit, and they still own the pole for 2 out of the 4 classes. But now we have a McLaren and a Porsche still in the still on pole position for the Ben class. So we've got we're coming up to the very end here with about a minute left on the clock with a little carryover time. So since this is an open class, anybody on their lap will get a chance to complete that lap, barring any major technical issues. So we'll see what happens here with the last minute and a half or so of the session.
And this is the time to strike. Strike while the iron is hot. And for these racers, you want to get the times in right at the very end. I talk about this a little bit in terms of the broadcast that I do, but I used to do some autocross stuff with the Sports Car Club of America. And whenever I was doing events like that, I would always want to be the last one of the last drivers out there in our respective sessions, so there was no counter from my competitors. They could set the best time, then I'd go out there and just stick one on them at the very end, and they would not be able to counter that. So it always feels nice to have the final say when it comes to a qualifying session. These drivers looking to strike while the iron is hot. Ken Copeland looking to maybe improve on his current pole time, currently setting a 1:17.751, which is a very good lap time. Of course, having him on the provisional pole, not just the pro category, but the overall field as well. That's about 2/10 quicker than his practice time as well. So Ken Copeland in that number 15 Mustang really kicking on the Cuisinarts.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, just set a faster lap, 1:17.727. That is quick around this track. So that Ford is going to be very difficult to beat. Colby Ohl is going to have to do some work in his Audi to try and match that during the course of this race.
And let's see what manufacturer is going to have the upper hand, because that's the thing when it comes to GT3 racing action on the iRacing platform and in real life as well. All these cars have their own little unique quirks and features, to invoke a little bit of Doug DeMuro language here. But these drivers, they're going to have to try and figure out which car is the best at all these different racetracks, because we've got a brilliant season to look forward to here from Season 10 of the Operation eMotorsports Racing League. Just looking through, we've already had Daytona and Indy, Road Atlanta, of course, playing the host of tonight's race, Laguna Seca, Brands Hatch, Watkins Glen, Road America, CTMP, and VIR. We've got 2 tracks with some, would that be an acronym? I'm not sure. You can tell I didn't pay attention much in English class, which is part of the reason why I sound like I'm talking in tongues most of the time whenever I'm on the air. But a brilliant slot of racetracks to look forward to all throughout this season. Road Atlanta maybe being a bit more on the old school end, but this track is still absolutely fabulous.
Well, you say that, and we're going to Road Atlanta's counterpart in England next week at Brands Hatch. So that is another very, very old school track, but man, it's fun to drive. So this season is they've got some great tracks in the calendar for this season, and hopefully this will be my last week here up in the broadcast booth, and I'll be out there racing with them next week.
Yeah, I think at this point in the show, we should probably mention that our booth mate, who is meant to be our booth mate all throughout this season, Mr. Matthew Duffin, his wife or girlfriend, I'm not entirely sure, his partner gave birth to their first child a couple of days ago, so congratulations to the Duffin family. Hopefully everything is going well, and that baby was born as healthy as he or she possibly could have, and hopefully we'll have him back in the commentary booth soon. Ken Copeland, though, will start this race from the pole position in the number 15 Wrong Stuff Mustang. He's going to be joined on the front row by Corby. All those two have been the hard chargers all throughout this season. Jason Taylor going to start right behind them in third. Joining him on that second row is going to be your Pro Ben pole sitter of Tyler Gilmed. Robert Schwenkler, Ken Copeland's teammate, is going to start about 2 rows back from him in fifth. Joining him on that third row is going to be your open pole sitter of Tyler Manning. Rodney Campbell, the Canadian in the number 62 car, will start this race in seventh, next to the P8 starter of Tyler Beeman. Looking right towards the tail end of the top 10, we've got Ian Carney, the beneficiary pole sitter, in ninth. Martin Wallace going to round out your top 10.
Yeah, Mitchell Opatic in P11, Jacob Little on the outside in P12, Nolan Uke in 13th, Brandon Potts in 14th, Greg Meismer, our other Pro Ben class, starting in 15th, Dustin Wells in 16th. We roll through here. 17th is Ty Shearing, Peter McDade in 18th, Ryan Cilione in 19th, and John Salata in P20.
Then looking through the drivers that we have starting outside of the top 20, we've got Richard Davenport being the first one in 21st. Kyle Shelton going to join him on that 11th row. Roy Farina going to start in 23rd next to Brian Burkhardt in 24th. Looking at P25, it's Brandon Mateo. Alongside him is Kyle Smith. Brandon Leonard going to start this race in P27 next to Matthew Ayotte, the Canadian in the TFG Racing number 11 car. Luis Rios will start this race in 29th in the number 10 Rios Racing car, and riding at your top 30 is going to be John Hicks.
Yep, rolling off in 31st is Joshua O'Connor. Gene Kelly starts in 32nd. Cody Durkin starts in 33rd. Chandler Baker starts in 34th. Anthony Calvi 35th. Dave Bell 36th. Jonathan Labey in 37th. Billy Ohl in 38th. Philip Chartier in 39th. Christopher Puglisi in 40th, and to round out the field, Cameron Aubignon in 41st, Tyler Reed in 42nd, Elliott Whitfield rounds out your 43-car grid for tonight's race.
A massive pack of race cars set to tackle this track in this 45-minute long race that we have coming up. Still on this formation lap as it stands at the present moment, and seeing these drivers head their way off through the S's. So as we are in this, as we are at this point of the night, waiting for these drivers to grab the green in the not too far off future, I want to focus at the moment on the P33 starter, the driver of the 322 car of Cody Durkin, who is our beneficiary spotlight for tonight. Cody Durkin is a U.S. Marine Corps veteran who enjoys all aspects of motorsports. Getting the bug after purchasing his first vehicle at the age of 16, Cody enjoys working on and around vehicles in his free time. His Price vehicle is a 1993 Subaru Impreza modified into a race car. His current project is his wife's Honda EK Civic hatchback. He's from Woodruff, South Carolina, of course a member of, well, a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps. So we'd like to thank Cody for his service and wish him well in this race that we have coming up, hauling the mail in that beautiful looking Ferrari for Rusty Nut Racing. But Charles, that's to grab the green in a couple of moments time, and after that is going to be 45 minutes of these drivers pushing their cars to the limit of control.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Got to be very careful here on lap one. Get the tires up to temp, get the brakes up to temp. Turn 1's going to be critical. Turn 5 and turn 7, those are your 3 trouble spots throughout the race. And let's have a good start here, good clean start, and let's get this show on the road.
Yeah, let's get up, rolling, and ready to rock and roll from the third race of this season. We've had 2 classics at Daytona and Indy, and looking to continue the trend here at Road Atlanta. That pace car making the turn to come down pit lane. The field now in the hands of our pole sitter of Ken Copeland. The green flag is out, and the drivers are on their way. Let's see how these drivers negotiate the first few corners of this race. Looking at that, that's a good start for Copeland. He's going to lead it over all, who slots in behind in that Audi. heading through turn number 2 right now. This is the real trouble spot for these drivers, dropping the anchors, hitting the brakes, and trying to get wheeled up, heading through one of the trickiest sections of this racetrack. A constant pummeling is what these tires are going to be taking, heading off through this section. Considering they're a little bit cold, these drivers are certainly going to be feeling the burn. That's a spinner a little bit farther in the back, heading through the S's. Not sure who that was around, and fingers crossed that then resulted in a big crash. Look at that. That right there is Wells, and while the McLaren's Dustin Wells in the 4-wide Motorsports 115 car, he's gone off the circuit, and that car is wrecked. You can see that left rear corner is already broken off.
Yeah, he's going to tow that one back, and it has done so. We do have a couple others also. Brandon Mateo, Matt Ayotte are also have towed back to the pit, so a little bit of drama on this opening lap, and Gene Kelly is off the track as well.
Yeah, so it looks like the challenges of Road Atlanta already catching some of these drivers. That we're going to take a look at a replay to see what happened to Dustin Wells, heading his way off through turn number 4 right now. About to head his way down into the S's. This 3-wide, nearly 3-wide, and he got a tap there. That, I believe, was the number 6 car, unless I'm very much mistaken. And he got hit again. That right there, I believe, unless I am very much mistaken, I'm going to look through to affirmative word as to who that was. That may have been the 87 of John Salata, and I think it may have been Brandon Mateo got a piece of some of that action as well, following Tyler Beeman in the number 92 car as it stands at the moment. These drivers starting their second laps, but I believe it was Salata in the 87 car that made the contact with Wells. Both those cars damaged with meatball flags. Yeah,
definitely. That was a very, very hard hit. As you can see, looks like Salata may still be on the track. Nope, he's out now. So as we're here on board looking at Matthew Ayotte as we're coming through turn 1. Just got turned. It was a checkup into turn 1. Too many cars trying to get through there at one time, and Matt gets the worst of that. And along with, I guess that would be Mateo, would be the other car involved in that as well. Both cars having to tow back to the pits.
Yeah, so those tow truck drivers already getting a good premium early on into this race as we see some side-by-side racing going on involving Ty Schuring in that Mercedes. He just gets a move done on Nolan Uke in the number 6 car. Uke was the one involved in that incident that we saw heading through the S's, but it hasn't hurt him too badly as it stands at the present moment. Still running a decent chunk up the field as it stands currently. But as we take a look at your current Open GT3 leader and your P4 runner overall, that is Tyler Manning. He's being tailed by Jason Taylor as it stands at the present moment. That kind of rhymed there. I don't think it really did, though. Very good reason why I don't write poetry. I just talk about race cars. Taylor currently running 5th overall as it stands currently, 3rd of the Pro GT3 drivers, as your current P3 runner overall is actually your Pro Ben leader of Tyler Gilmette.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's give a shout out to Tyler Manning for that fantastic paint job on that McLaren. That's a thing of beauty. As we're here on board now with Philip Chartier running the 3-color desert camo on his Corvette, along with a few other little odds and ends. Having a nice, good run so far, up 8 positions since the start of the race.
Yeah, so lots of drivers cutting their way through the field like a hot knife through butter. He's not the hard charger, though. Your current hard charger is Jonathan Labby in the 147 car is a spinner heading out of turn number 7. That right there was Philip Chartier. That's coming out of turn number 7 onto that back straightaway, and the number 13 car spinning around. He's got the number on his car, so I guess some bad luck striking him early.
Yeah, or maybe a little commentator curse, but I was going to say, I did a lot of testing with the Corvette here in the lead up to Petit Le Mans last year, and I cannot tell you how many times I wrecked coming through turn 7. It just seems like the rear end of the car just wants to let go, whether you hit the curb or not, and so I feel very bad for Philip in that, but that Corvette, for whatever reason, it just doesn't connect here quite as well as some of the other cars do.
The worst thing as well with trying to get the power down coming out of turn number 7 around this track, turn 7 at Road Atlanta is possibly one of the most important corners that we have in the entirety of this season. So vital to get a good exit out of there as we go back to live action and see a little bit of a hornet's nest forming. There's Opatic. He's running 6th at the moment of the Pro GT3 racers. However, he's got himself involved in a battle with himself and Jacob Little, who's running 3rd of the Open GT3 competitors, 9th overall. Side by side Racing. Look at that. Opatic trying to get the move done around the outside into the turn number 10 chicane. Not close enough to get that move done. But Opatic and Little finding themselves to be the Pied Pipers of this fight involving Rodney Campbell. Ian Carney's involved in this. Brandon Potts getting a bit of that action as well, along with Ty Schuring. This is a hornet's nest of race cars, and side by side with Schuring and Potts heading down that start-finish straightaway. It looks like Ty Schuring in that number 46 Mercedes going to get that move done to slip his way up into P13.
Yeah, it was a nice move up the inside at turn 1 as we're now riding along here with Potts. And just, yeah, you could just see that, just a constant battle there. There's about 6 or 7 cars that were just kind of wadded up coming down the front stretch. Luckily, nobody with any damage, and so they can continue on, and they'll swap around positions again. And some cars will do better in the first sector of the track. Some cars will do better once we get to the back half. Those Mustangs, obviously, with that V8 up front, will be chugging it down this long straightaway, the airstrip, as we like to call it. As we're on board now with Robert Schwinkler. In his Acura, which has kind of been the class of the GT3 since it's been out this season. It's got a lot of interest from a lot of GT drivers.
Yeah, that Acura seems to be a popular one for these drivers, and I can tell it quite obviously because, as we see some side-by-side racing here, this is currently a very tense battle involving Tyler Manning and Jason Taylor. So it's not a battle for class position. However, there is some skin in the game when it comes to that class position fight. If Tyler Manning loses out on a spot to Jason Taylor, that cushion that Manning has in front of Tyler Beeman, your current P2 runner in the Open GT3 class, that cushion will slowly fall away from him. So Tyler Manning in that number 13 McLaren looking to put on a defensive masterclass on 2 Mustangs that are hounding him from behind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a great battle so far, and this will continue on. We're just now 7 minutes into this race as Taylor is going to line this up and see if he can make a move on this McLaren headed down the back straight. Should get a good draft here. The big V8 up front is going to just tow down the back straight here, and let's see if he's got an opportunity to move to the inside and try and make this pass.
Yeah, let's see if we're going to see a move heading off into turn number 10, the chicane right towards the end of this lap. One of the latest additions to Road Atlanta as well. Back in the day, up until the first ever running of the Petit Le Mans, that back straightaway ran from the exit of turn number 7 all the way up into 11 and 12, which had to have been a simply horrifying ride for all sorts of race cars, even if you're running in the SCCA runoffs, which used to be here pretty much every single year from the 60s all the way up until the 90s. That had to have been such a sketchy ride. That crest coming around turn number 11 is tricky enough as is, but doing it with a lot more speed to it has to be absolutely terrifying. Imagine if we brought that back. You'd probably see a GT4 car end up in trying to remember of the name of the track that's on the other side of Road Atlanta, the oval. I think it's Langley, potentially Lanier. Yeah, Lanier.
Yeah, no.
Just find themselves lawn darted into the grandstands of Lanier Speedway.
I don't think there's any GT car that has enough downforce that wouldn't get airborne coming over that crest at full chat. Just don't see that happening. I mean, I think even the prototypes would struggle trying to keep the car on the pavement coming down there at about 200 miles an hour trying to crest that hill. There'll be some very brave souls attempting that.
Yeah, that would be super sketchy. I mean, it's strange. After the changes were made to bring in, at the time known as the American Le Mans Series, to begin the tradition of the Petit Le Mans back in the late 90s, we saw some aerial acrobatics with a Porsche, but it wasn't in, I mean, it was on that straightaway, but it wasn't because of the crest. So, gotta love old 90s prototype action with some rather, what's the word I'm looking for? Rather funky aerodynamic principles. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, turning race cars into airplanes, which Oh boy. Anyway, side-by-side racing involving Manning and Taylor coming out of turn number 5. Tyler Manning had an absolutely abysmal run heading through the S's, and he may get a 2-for-1 deal put on him. Look at that side-by-side racing with himself and Tyler Gilmet. Gilmet in the 5 car coming out of the blue, trying to get a move done on Taylor. Got it done successfully. He's now trying to get that move done on Tyler Manning. Close quarter stuff between the two Tylers going on to the back stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. Great move to the outside. That's a very difficult place to pass on the outside, but managed to get the Mustang around turn 6 and 7 successfully, and he's going to bring Tyler Beeman with him, it appears.
Whoa, and here we go, 3 wide. Oh, contact being made between the two of them. That's Gilmet and Manning coming to blows. That number 14 McLaren has been real scrappy as of late. And I mentioned a few moments ago the cushion that he had between himself and Tyler Beeman. That gap is now gone. So it's now a heads-up fight between those two for the lead. And Open GT3 is side-by-side still with Manning and Jason Taylor heading off through turn number 1. Jason Taylor getting that move done to slip his way up into P4 overall. Manning dropping back down to 5th. Tyler Manning now finding himself in a real tricky spot because you've got Tyler Beeman right behind. That's a swap-a-roo that may happen for the lead in Open GT3. And if he finds himself losing out some more time, Manning that is, he may find himself falling into the crutches of Jacob Little as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like there's a little Ford Mustang train going, and we got the first 2 through, and we got 2 more behind. And let's see if Beeman's going to have a little bit of pace here and do something with that McLaren going down the back straight.
And let's see, we got a train forming here. Yes, all aboard. Actually, who's leading it at the moment? All aboard the Gourmet train, choo-choo, heading down the back straightaway. I would break out an old prop that I used to bring out in these broadcasts, but I've agreed to retire that for the rest of my broadcasting career because any sort of musical mentions that I have on the air, I don't want to blow people's eardrums out. Side-by-side racing maybe developing here between Mitchell O'Paddock and Jacob Little. Those two cars very close, coming down the hill off through turn number 12 onto that start-finish straightaway to begin this 10th lap of this race. Leading it, though, in comfortable fashion is Ken Copeland. He's built out a massive lead to the front of Corby. Corby last season here from the Operation Motorsports Racing League, Charles, was just absolutely indomitable in those GT3 cars, but he's found his match with Ken Copeland.
He really has. Last year I think won basically every race that we had in that pro class, and so this year it's a little different. Copeland has got the measure of him, and it's I think it's 1 win each for him, so far Copeland has a very sizable lead, but still have pit stops coming. So you never can tell what can happen there.
Yeah, those pit stops are always a big factor in these races, so let's see how things are going to shake out between now and the checkered flag. We only have 13 minutes on the board right now, so we're seeing a lot of drama. Some drivers going side by side, nearly coming to blows. We had 3 wide action heading off through the turn number 10 chicane a couple of moments ago. That turn 10 chicane, I feel like I mentioned it every single time I do a broadcast of a race at Road Atlanta. That turn 10 chicane is one of my favorites in the world of racing. It's just such an expertly crafted series of corners. Good to get some overtakes done, and it just works out so well as we take a look at some side-by-side racing maybe developing involving Anthony Calvi in the number 20 Mercedes.
Yeah, Calvi having a good run so far, up 11 spots since the beginning of the race, so doing well, and he is just behind Joshua O'Connor, who is 5th in the bin class, and Rui Farina, who is 8th in the open class. So that is a battle just ahead for position. So having a good run. The Mercedes, I think, would be a very strong candidate here, along with the Mustangs. So we'll see how many more spots he's going to be able to pick up during the course of this race. But he's having a good run thus far.
Having a good run as it stands currently, but you want to keep that good run going between now and the checkered flag. Still rather early as it stands currently. I hear a no, Charles. Have we had an incident, or did I just pull off a bad commentator jinx?
We've had a Rui Farina towing back, and we're going to get the replay from Jonathan right on top of things. Going through turn 5. Whoa, curb killed him. Oh, even the car behind got a little squirrely there. So that was very interesting. That maybe that was just a reaction to Farina losing it coming through turn 5. But that's one of those corners, turn 5. We haven't talked about it yet, but very difficult. You have to be right on line. You can't. There's not much room for mistakes coming through 5 for sure.
Yeah, turn 5, it's such a hard corner to try and get right. We see John Hicks spin it in the 308 car. That's coming out of turn number 3, another hard corner to get right. The opening sector, the opening half of this lap, you've got so many corners where in a GT3 car, you just have to lick the stamp, send it, and hope to God you don't end up in the barriers. So sometimes it works, other times it doesn't, as side-by-side racing now developing here yet again, involving Taylor and Manning. Manning getting that move done, as I think Taylor had a bad exit heading onto the back straightaway.
Yeah, I think so too, and he's falling backwards, and we've got the Tyler Beeman right behind. Another Ford Mustang. So you can see the 3 Mustangs and the 1 McLaren 720. We got on here with Tyler Beeman running second in the open class. He's only a half second behind Manning in that McLaren. So that's a battle, 2 battles for position, but in 2 different classes, and they're just kind of all mixed together.
And here we go, some side-by-side racing going on, heading down the hill, involving McDade, who's your current P2 runner in the GT3 category. McDade has had a pretty good season as it stands currently, has shown some pace, but got struck by a falling anvil 1 week ago at Indy. So hoping not to have that happen to him yet again, because when that incident took him out heading through, I believe it was turn number 4 1 week ago, he found himself in the lead in Ben GT3. Not finding himself in the lead currently, as Ian Carney has checked out in that class currently, 7.4 seconds in front of McDade, who's now feeling some pressure from Nolan Uke right behind in the BMW.
Yeah, it really is. Uke's pushing that BMW hard. BMW is really good, obviously down the straightaway. Really good through on the curbs. So really good job of just kind of, bouncing over those curbs and continuing on. Not necessarily the best car through, like say, the S's section, but Uke is doing a fantastic job so far. Now we've got a battle with that Porsche, the 666 of Wallace. Is in the mix of there as well.
I'm not sure who the Acura was that decided to take the lawnmower line heading through the turn number 10 chicane. It was a lapped car for sure, but not exactly sure who it was in that Acura. That looked like a very uncomfortable ride. I think I threw my back out just looking at that. Side-by-side racing continuing here. Look at that close quarter stuff involving Potts, your current 4th place runner in Open GT3, and Ian Carney, your leader in Ben GT3. In all this drama, Carney's lead in the beneficiary GT3 class has dipped down by about 2.5 seconds in the span of just a couple of laps. So it really shows you it's not a lap traffic encounter, mind you. He's just dealing with some battles at the moment involving other cars on the lead lap. It shows you how those interclass battles with some drivers in some of the other categories can really affect these racers.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got got a big open class. It's generally you're going to be your lower experienced drivers along with the pro class, but some of these guys are quite quick, as we've seen with a couple of our guys in the open class running up toward the front of the field in the overall. So good battling here amongst all the cars, and yeah, it's a little bit difficult to keep up with with who's in what class, but it makes for some really great racing because it's all equally matched cars. So it's just the drivers doing what the drivers do, which is racing hard.
Yeah, and these drivers certainly racing tremendously hard, heading down the start-finish straightaway. Right now you can see Campbell in the midst of that Hornets. That's the number 74 of Jacob Little going off the track, coming out of turn number 1, still side-by-side into turn number 3. Look at that close quarter stuff. Campbell getting that move done. One in a BMW, another in a Mustang, both giant race cars heading their way off through the S's right now in this 5-car pack at the front of it, giving us an awesome battle to talk about the start of this lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was kind of watching. I got to give a little oof to Ty Shearing. So I was watching him just behind these cars in that Mercedes come over the chicane there at turn 3 at the top of the hill, and was just sideways as he got back over those curbs, and did a good job to just wrangle that car back up and keep it heading in a straight line.
At this point, the racing action is really ramping up all throughout the field. We got battle forming right now for the final podium spot in the Pro GT3 category involving Jason Taylor and Robert Schwankler. You can just barely see the wrong stuff car of Schwankler. There he is, heading his way through the final corner right now. Robert Schwankler, who's shown some good pace as it stands currently, made a series debut along with his wrong stuff teammate of Ken Copeland 1 week ago. Schwankler, a driver who I've experienced commentating and doing some race control with as well. He's a fast driver. He's a clean driver as well. Got involved in an unfortunate incident 1 week ago, but Schwankler still a fast racer and looking to flex his muscles as he slowly reels in Taylor to try and break his way up into that Pro GT3 podium.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see it right here, 5 cars within a second and a half of each other, and we're halfway into this race. We've got pit stops coming up in short order over the next 3 or 4 laps, but these guys are battling as hard as they can go, and there's no signs of them letting up.
I think these drivers haven't exactly reached the point yet where they're like, you know what, we're going to start taking it a little bit easy. I always feel like a goofball for mentioning that in these races. It's like, oh yeah, these drivers got to find the point in time where they're going to start to take it a little bit more careful. No, these drivers prove me wrong every single time. It's brilliant from my perspective in the commentary booth. I certainly won't envy some of these drivers' blood pressures and heartbeats all throughout this race, because holy cow, just from our perspective in the commentary booth, Charles, these battles start to get a bit more tense to watch. However, considering we are 21 and a half minutes into this race, these battles may break up a little bit because of those pit stops that we often have to talk about. Jacob Little coming into the pits from 3rd in Open GT3, so we do have to worry about that pit strategy very soon.
Yep, absolutely. Ron Cillione's in there as well. So we're starting to see the first of the pit stop runners coming in. So that means that we'll have another big pack. So we'll see how many of these cars come together. If they try and say, I'm going to run an alternate strategy for a lap and just see if I can run a hot lap while the guy's in the pit that I'm chasing, and see if I can do an overcut, or maybe the strategy is for that 5 car to come in now and do an undercut and get some clean track out there by himself while these other 4 are still battling. So we'll kind of see how the strategy plays out.
A lot of stuff going on all throughout this field. This is we just saw a couple of moments ago, I believe it was Durkin who were following a couple of moments ago. That or my live timing tower was slightly blinking a little bit out of control there. Reminds me of time when I was still in high school, I believe. The stress of finals caught up to me so badly that I developed an eye twitch that I didn't get rid of for like a year and a half. So that was rather fun time for me. Yee howdy, as we see these drivers. That's Meismer running P2 of the Pro Ben GT3 racers as it stands currently. It's kind of a running joke for some of the drivers in the Pro Ben category, that being Guillemette and Meismer. In my entire time covering this Operation eMotorsports League, dating back to the start of last season, I don't think I've seen these drivers battle with each other out on the racetrack yet. One of them gets struck by a falling anvil while the other has a clean race. So looking like we may have the same case here as Guillemette is leading at 14 and a half seconds in front of Meismer.
Yeah, I think Greg had a really bad qualifying, and it kind of put him in the back in amongst the rest of the field, and he's actually moved up a little bit. He was up almost 7 seconds earlier, but I guess the traffic has gotten the better of him, or he's having some issues getting that Porsche to behave properly as he's trying to circle this track. And so, yeah, hasn't been much of a race, but once again, a lot of some of those issues they had were actually during the pit stops where they were getting speeding penalties. So we'll see if we get 2 clean stops out of those 2 Pro Ben drivers.
Here we see Ken Copeland coming in from the dominant race lead. He's going to be joined by Tyler Beeman and Manning in the Open GT3 class. So these drivers deciding that now is the time to come in. I'm curious how it's going to work out for all. Ian Carney coming in from the lead in Ben GT3. Gregory Meismer coming in from P2 and Pro Ben. This is a flood of drivers deciding that now is the time to come into the pits. Luis Rios coming in from 4th in Ben GT3. Kobiol is now taking the lead in the Audi, and I'm curious to see where Ken Copeland is going to exit out, if he's going to find himself in the midst of some sort of chaos. And let's see if Kobiol is going to be able to reel him in a little bit as a result of this pit cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Kobe's out there out front, got a lap car just directly in front of him. So we'll see if he gets through there cleanly and can run a hot lap, or if he's going to come in the lap by, just coming up. So he's got one more. He's going to go around again. But we talked about this last week. They've got the fuel level set, I think 45% of the full tank. And so it's basically, there's about a 3-lap window where these guys are going to come in and take fuel. So they're going to run just about to the halfway point, which where we are now, just past it. They're going to come in for their pit stop, and they're going to go back out and finish the rest of the race. And we had some fuel strategies played out last week as well. Some worked, some didn't. So it's another one of those that we'll just have to wait and see as the laps tick down, who called it right and who didn't.
Yeah, who played that strategy game to perfection? Who's going to be smelling like a bed of roses as a result of their strategy call? And who's going to be smelling like a bucket of horse manure at the end of this? Believe me, I have been on both sides of that. I remember one of the last times I did an official race at Road Atlanta was in the Toyota GR86 series. The race was in the rain, and I was like, you know what? It's dark. I can't tell whether or not this track is wet or dry. And at that point, I didn't realize the fact that iRacing tells you the track state. So I put on dry tires, took to the green flag, and I skidded off number one so bad, I swear if that barrier and gravel trap wasn't there, I probably would have ended up in Key West, Florida when everything was said and done. Kobiol coming into the pits from the lead in Pro GT3. Let's see how it shakes out with himself, and you're at 1 point race leader of Ken Copeland. Let's see if he's also joined in the pits by Schwenkler. Schwenkler staying out for another lap. Taylor and a lot of other drivers deciding that now's the time to pit. I believe gonna have some more drivers. Jason Taylor coming in. Schwenkler staying out yet again. Ken Copeland, of course, has made that run to come into the pits. He's going to get that move done to re-overtake Kobiol to grab this race lead yet again. But Robert Schwenkler deciding to stay out is currently a wrong stuff P1 and P2 in Pro GT3.
Yeah, absolutely. So far, it's a great fuel run for Schwenkler. He's able to make that Acura go an extra lap over the rest of the field. So now we've got it's a little different as I'm looking at the pit times. Copeland 13.1 stopped, Kobiol 18.9. A lot of 17s and 18s out there. So Kobe's might have been a little long, but we don't know how much fuel he's got, and we don't know if Copeland has called it right yet again. With that short stop, and it worked for him last week, and we'll see if it works out for him this week.
Yeah, Ken Copeland looking to get back-to-back wins in this season, making his series debut 1 week ago, and that's one heck of a way to kick off your time in a series with a checkered flag at the greatest racetrack in the world as far as I'm concerned. Robert Schwenkler, he's making that call to come into the pits in the 235 car. Let's see how this will drop him down. Will he find himself in the podium spots? Will he find himself in the top 5? That remains to be determined. Schwenkler hitting his marks in the wrong stuff 235 car. Let's see how he's going to exit out. Kobiol not getting that move done on him yet. Ken Copeland currently negotiating with some lap traffic, heading through the S's down the hill, now back up the hill into turn number 5. Schwenkler, I think, is going to exit out either in P3 or P4. It's got to be close with himself and Taylor on corner exits. There we go. That is Schwenkler coming out of the pits in 3rd. Well done to Robert.
Yeah, so I think he's going to actually, now that I'm looking at timing and scoring, he's going to be running in 5th behind Beeman, Gilmet, Ole, and Copeland. But still, great pit stop. His was a bit quicker than the guys in front, so he's able to close up that gap a little more. And he's actually, I think he was behind Taylor and maybe even Manning before the stop. So he's done a really good job of navigating that pit cycle. And he's running up in the fifth position. So well done for Robert.
Yeah, working that strategy call to absolute perfection in that Acura. So it's now Copeland, Ole, and Schwenkler, your podium runners in Pro GT3. And Pro Ben, it's still Tyler Gilmet in front of Greg Meismer. That gap ballooning now to 19.5 seconds. In Open GT3, it's currently Beeman leading over Manning and Little. That's how it's looking as it stands at the present moment. Manning was holding on to that Open GT3 lead, however, as a result of some chicanery, shall we call it, involving some other cars in different classes. Didn't really work out for him terribly well. It's now Tyler Beeman in that number 92 car, holding on to P4 overall as it stands currently, and P1 of the Open GT4 contenders. This is Brandon Potts, who kicked the season off with a win at Daytona 2 weeks ago, finds himself P4 of the Open GT3 runners, and as it stands at the present moment, with Tyler Beeman holding on to that lead in the Open category, will keep the streak going of having 3 different drivers taking the checkered flags in that Open GT3 class.
Yeah, we'll have to kind of wait and see. We've still got about 15 minutes left in the race, and I'm just going to be curious to see if Manning is going to be able to work that gap down. Obviously has a really good pace in that McLaren. We'll see if he's got the enough pace to catch that Ford Mustang of Tyler Beeman.
You can see these drivers close at the bottom end of this racetrack, and going off the track in the process is Ty Schuring. That's going to give Jacob Little the opportunity to slip his way up into 11th overall. Schuring, currently the 8th place runner of the Pro GT3 drivers, having a bit of a rally line coming out of turn number 7, dealing with some close quarter stuff at the bottom end of the circuit. Turn 6 and 7, a really challenging spot of the racetrack. It's so inviting to go for some moves, but turn 6, I feel like I can never get the line through there exactly right, and you want to optimize it as best as you can through turn number 7, where the exit is oh so vital. The bottom end of the circuit here at Road Atlanta, Charles, at least in my view, such a hard series of corners to try and get right.
Yeah, it really, really is. It's just, it's kind of a tale of 2 tracks, right? You've got a very technical section of racing that you have to do. You just got to watch, and you see the 46 assuring just too late on the brakes, and or the cars that were in there were maybe just checking up amongst themselves, kind of caught Schuring out just a little bit there. He had to take some evasive maneuvers, is able to keep the car righted and head down out of turn 5 down to 6, but that's brought the cars, the Acura behind of Brandon Potts. That's allowed him to make up some gap. And as you see there, another one of those that sounds like that maybe that 46 car is struggling a little bit, just trying to get through a couple of these corners, which kind of stands to reason that that front engine car, sometimes that nose wants to lead you astray if you don't have the setup quite right. So you have to be very careful.
As we see these drivers continue to tackle this race, we've got close quarters battling involving Rob Schwankler and Taylor heading off through into turn number 2 right now. These two going to give us a good battle to talk about for 3rd place in that Pro GT3 category. Schwankler in the Acura, Taylor in that Mustang. That Mustang, I remember, Charles, I remember us two having a conversation once that Mustang was added into iRacing a couple of seasons ago, kind of talking about the challenges of driving that big, heavy Mustang around these racetracks as quick as you possibly can. I'm going to say this, and this is honest, I feel like there's certain points in time where my 1985 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme can handle better than the Mustang.
Yeah, great power. Obviously, we talked about it, that big V8 up front. Sounds great. It's one of the best sounding cars in iRacing for sure. But sometimes it just doesn't want to corner the way some of these other cars like the McLaren or the Acura can, and so you try and make it do things that it doesn't necessarily want to do, and you struggle. But I think that as these cars go, as usual with iRacing, it seems like every season that a car is out there, the car kind of gets better and better. And it gets kind of more balanced with the rest of them. It still has its personality, to be sure, but can still, just kind of gets better. And I think that's happened with the Mustang. I think it handles a little better than it did when it first came out. And obviously these guys that are running it, obviously as you look on the leaderboard, it's just there's a big blue oval in several positions up toward the front of each class.
I gotta say, that transformation of the Mustang can even hold into real life. I remember last year the Mustang was as that's going off the track. That's a number 5 car of Guillemette. He's from the lead in Pro Ben GT3. That's not going to be enough for him to lose out on that lead, as Gregory Meismer still finds himself 13 seconds back. However, he had a really scrappy run heading through turn number 5 into turn number 6 right now. Let's see if this was just a spin on his own or whether there was some sort of extracurricular contact. Now he just spun all by himself, ends up in the grass. Thankfully for him, gets it back up and rejoins the racetrack without any further incidents. It's a rather safe rejoin in the process as well. Really tough to rejoin the racetrack around that point of the circuit in 6 and 7, considering those corners are just about blind. But well done from Guillemette, spinning, not losing out on a boatload of time, and getting it back turned around in the right direction without losing out on too much.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he did a good job of rejoining safely. Took a very shallow angle back onto the track. No contact with anybody else. Just a little too much mustard going in through the turn 6 and lost the rear end of the car. There was plenty of room out there to gather it back up and get it righted. And yeah, the gap's down now to about 12 seconds over Meismer. So he lost about, I want to say, around 8 seconds or so. So obviously, you know, that's going to happen when you're off sideways in the grass. But once again, still safely in first place in the Pro Ben class.
Oh, you can see. Oh, that's contact. Someone crashed heading through the S's. Not entirely sure who that was. Multiple cars going off the track. Ty Schuring involved in that drama, heading off through the S's into turn number 5. We're going to have to load up some replays because that was a lot of stuff. Oh boy, what worse time to get hiccups. A lot of stuff going on in the span of a couple of moments. Brandon Potts in the ZFG racing car. I think he got clipped, and let's see him back it into the barrier. That was a sickening blow for the number 25 car. I saw Ferrari slow heading through the S's, and I was like, oh, this is sketchy. And then I saw a car go off the track. I was like, oh, this is really sketchy. Then I saw another car go off the track and be stopped in the runoff area on the outskirts of turn number 5. I was like, oh, this is really, really sketchy. Let's look at Brandon Mateo in the 111 car. Is currently classed as 14th in the Open GT3 category. Had a big curve whack into 5, and oh, he hits the barrier.
Yeah, that one's pretty serious. He just basically almost straight line turn 5, just straight into the barrier, glanced off. And yeah, the Schuring, I believe, just basically because the car was on the inside line there, just basically got off of his rhythm, you know, had to avoid, stay wide, still carrying too much speed through 4 to be offline, especially with the marbles and everything, and just could not recover it in time to make the corner, loses the rear end, backs it into the wall. Very, very hard impact.
Yeah, that was straight into concrete as well. Sort of impacts like that are always sickening to see. Thankfully, I'm very lucky to say that I've grown up in an era of racing and watching it from my kid years now to me being firmly an adult in my 20s now, that I can say proudly that I grew up in an era of the sport where safety standards were a lot higher, more tire barriers and safer barriers than just concrete walls and hay bales. We'll mention one thing about Road Atlanta as well. Just going back probably about 30 years ago to 1995, there was a point in time in which this track had really no runoff area to speak of, and it was just like grassy berms that you would run into. That runoff area heading off through the S's that we saw those drivers use a few moments ago, as much as it still may seem rather small compared to a track like Paul Ricard or Yas Marina, for instance, it's still a lot bigger than it was a matter of about 30 years ago, because back then it was track, 5 feet of grass, and then a hill that would probably flip your car upon impact. That's a Porsche going off heading through turn number 1.
Yeah, that is, I believe, Chandler Baker. I believe that's who that was, the 23 car, off on the wide side of turn 1, I'm pretty sure. Yep, coming down the front straight, pretty much all by himself. Just loops it and to turn it in, and just did not let off the throttle nearly enough, and momentum just carries him off the track into the barrier on the outside of turn 1. That's going to make that car very difficult to drive. I mentioned there's probably a little bit of suspension or wheel damage on that left side.
Yeah, I think in terms of like cosmetic damage, it didn't look too bad. However, that was still a hit wheel to barrier. And reminder, folks, the iRacing tire barriers, they aren't made out of soft, cushy tire rubber. They're basically made out of the matter of white dwarf stars. That's a big impact, nevertheless. But credit where credit's due for him just licking the stamp and sending it, heading off through turn number 1. Hey, you know what they say? When in doubt, flat out. My absolute favorite quote from former President George Bush.
There you go. There you go. As we're coming down to the last 5 minutes.
I have a story about that.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. I'll share this anyways. Usually my stories completely fall off the rails. Me being the, as we see some side-by-side racing heading down the hill, trying to bail me out of this, but I commit myself to this, so I will share this story anyways. Based off some of the stuff I've said on the air over the past hour and some change here on Apex Racing TV tonight, you viewers can probably get a read on the fact that I like to have a good time in life. And one of the key moments in terms of that was senior year of high school. I decided to pick my senior yearbook quote to be, "I know the human being and fish can coexist peacefully." George W. Bush. They did not run that, unfortunately. I'm still upset about that to this day. It's like 2 years removed, but I'm still mildly ticked off.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I can see that as we're on board here with Smith in the 22, and we'll switch over here to on board now with Gene Kelly running 9th in the Pro GT3 class. He's got Jonathan Labby about 1 second behind, but there's a couple cars in between them, one of which being the P2 runner of Corby has worked his way around to start lapping the top 10 cars in the class.
Oh, you can see 5 cars packed together like sardines heading off through turn number 10. That was oh so close, involving a lot of the drivers up towards the front of the field. Corby, he's going like 23 seconds back of Ken Copeland. This is a dominating drive for that wrong stuff number 15 Mustang. Oh, contact being made. Heading off through turn number 1. That's got to ping an Acura off. Not sure who that was. Looking at it, that I believe looking through, and no, I thought we were going to see some retaliation there a couple of moments ago. That was Leonard in the Acura heading off through the first few corners. Those contact with himself and the Porsche that he was going side by side with. Let's take a look at it and see that TFG Racing number 7 car go off the circuit. Side by side, contact being made, and he has to go to the grass. And credit where credit's due, he still sent it through turn number 2, 3, and 4 regardless.
Yeah, he did, but the Mustang in front of him was Tyler Reed, one of our admins, so that's probably not the guy you want to run into. I'm just saying. But no, it was just it almost like he maybe turned in. It's maybe a little too much on the car that was on the inside. A little contact, but safely through the grass, back onto the track, up at the top of the hill there in the turn 2-3 chicane. So they can continue on racing with, I think we're probably, say, 2 laps from the end of this. So we're watching here Peter McDade running 2nd in the Ben class, having himself quite the day in that Ferrari. Ferrari, the good all-rounder of the GT3 field, does everything pretty good. Nothing really spectacular, but it's one of those cars that's actually one of the ones that they use for the D-Class, the lowest non-rookie series in iRacing. So lots of drivers get used to that car and really like the way it handles and can make the most out of it.
And here's a view of Ken Copeland. He's going to be taking the white this time by, I believe. And for Copeland, it has been a dominating drive in that number 15 wrong stuff car. He hasn't put a foot wrong all throughout this race. That white flag in the air. Only one more lap of racing action for Copeland to bring this one home. Has some lap traffic to contend with as well, which is a little bit unfortunate. But he's got a 21.3 second gap to the front of Corby. I think he can afford to maybe take a little bit easy on this final lap. Now, take it easy doesn't mean run this final lap on the pit limiter, but for the driver of the number 15 car, you don't need to risk it for the biscuit at the end of this race. Look at some drivers going side by side. A little bit further in the back, Leonard in that Acura. He's being tailed presently by Reed, those two battling for P7 in the Open GT3 class. So we may have a battle to talk about coming to the line in this race. Tyler Gilmet, he's your current leader in Pro Ben GT3. Tyler Beeman, your leader in Open GT3. And Ian Carney on track for a third straight win thus far this season. Go 3 for 3. That would be an impressive moment for the driver of that Porsche. Nearly saw a collision heading through the S's a couple of moments ago for these drivers in this camera shot. Look at that, Leonard trying to get the move done down the inside into turn number 6. That's some close quarter stuff with himself and the 147 of Gene Kelly. But back at the front of the field, Ken Copeland has been faultless thus far in this race. He won in Indy 1 week ago, and he wins at Road Atlanta tonight. Ken Copeland got to take the checkered flag, your winner here for the third round of this championship. And it's only 19.7 seconds, nearly 20 seconds between himself and Corby at the end of this race. He was taking it easy, didn't want to get involved in any sort of drama, but the driver of that 15 Mustang wheeling that thing around as best as he possibly can. The Texan running around Atlanta in a car out of Detroit, going to be spraying some French champagne at the end of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a great run. Another dominant performance from Copeland. As we're on board here with Tyler Gilmet, who looks to be taking the Pro Ben class win. I did see Greg Meisner actually came down the pit lane, maybe for a drive-through last lap. So obviously that kind of took the steam out of a possible comeback, and Gilmet will take the Pro Ben class win.
Yeah, so Gilmet going to grab his second Pro Ben win thus far this season. So congratulations to him. Congratulations as well to Ian Carney for his third straight win in the beneficiary GT3 category. Flexing his muscles early on this season in that number 54 Porsche. I'm not sure what in the world has gone down. Some driver must be doing some absolutely ridiculous burnouts. Looking at how smoky it was heading through into the S's. That was, someone called Smoke in the Bear, because that was, that was a lot of smoke up in the air. I thought it was a calm, crisp, and cool morning in Beijing, China when I was seeing that a couple of moments ago. But nope, we're still here in Braselton, Georgia, as Ken Copeland, your winner at the end of 45 minutes of racing action. He wins it in front of Corby in P2, Tyler Beeman, the Open driver, going to complete your overall podium in third. Robert Schwankler going to complete your Pro GT3 podium in fourth overall. Jason Taylor going to finish right behind in fifth. Tyler Manning finishes in sixth. Michael Paddock ends up right behind in P7. Tyler Gilmet going to finish in eighth, grabbing your Pro Ben win in the process. Rodney Campbell will finish this race in ninth. Martin Wallace in the 666 ZFG racing car will complete your top 10. Jacob Little will finish this race in 11th. Ian Carney grabs your beneficiary GT3 class win in the number 54 car, ends up 12th at the end of this race. We have Kyle Shelton finishing in lucky number P13, Peter McDade finishing right behind in 14th, Luis Rios in 15th, Greg Meismer in P16, Anthony Calvi in the number 24 wide motorsports car ends up in 17th, Ty Schuring in 18th, Kyle Smith in P19, and rounding out your top 20 is going to be Nolan Uke.
Yeah, finishing in 21st, Gene Kelly. Brandon Leonard is 22nd, Tyler Reed 23rd, John Salata 24th, Joshua O'Connor 25th, Billy Old 26th, Brandon Potts 27th, Jonathan Labey 28th, Dustin Wells 29th, Philip Chartier in 30th, Matthew Iote in 31st, Cody Durkin 32nd, Richard Davenport 33rd, Dave Bell 34th, Chandler Baker 35th, Brandon Mateo in 36th, Rui Farina in 37th, Don Hicks 38th, Ryan Cilione in 39th, Cameron Aubignon in 40th, Christopher Pugliese in 41st, Brian Burkhart 42nd, and Elliot Whitfield rounds out the 43 car finishing order.
It should be known that Cody Durkin, our beneficiary spotlight tonight, finished in 32nd, and your hard charger at the end of this 45-minute long race is going to be series admin Tyler Reed, up 19 spots from where he started in this race at number 47 Mustang, ended up crossing the line in 23rd. So well done to him, and well done to all of the winners at the end of this race. Got some drivers waiting up in the interview waiting area, looking to have a quick little chat with us. Charles, I'll let you take first dibs dibs on the interviews.
Oh, cool. Let's talk to our overall race winner, Ken Copeland, in the Pro GT3 category, and we'll bring him in. Ken, pretty dominant performance tonight. Congratulations! Like you got a nice early lead and just was able to extend.
Yes, sir. That's essentially what happened, and that was the plan. Set a nice quali time, get out front, get open air, and then just focus, set quali laps the rest of the race.
Yeah, and that plan worked to perfection. Didn't have anything. Think you maybe lost a little bit of time toward the end of the race, but obviously didn't have to push too much as you're working through some lap traffic. So as we continue on for the season, next week I had to check again. Laguna Seca on the board. How do you feel about that Mustang working its way around the corkscrew at Laguna next week?
Man, to be honest, the Mustang will probably be perfectly fine. The problem will be residing in the seat. I'm not a huge, Laguna Seca is a great track. I know it's wonderful, but I struggle there in every car. So we'll see if I can wrestle the Mustang around, but I will hardly blame the car on that one.
I hear you. Well, congratulations, Ken, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Good.
Yeah,
We'll
absolutely.
go ahead and let you give any thanks or shout outs that you would like to.
Yeah. Just every week, the two big thanks are going to be Operation Motorsport, all the admins that put this on, all the beneficiaries come out. If you haven't looked them up, look them up. Really, really solid organization for a lot of different veterans, both IRL, on track, as well as in the sim. And then obviously Apex Racing TV. Y'all put on an awesome broadcast week in and week out across a number of different series. If you haven't checked those out, check them out. Support the series, support the channel. Give them a thumbs up, all that good stuff. Thanks y'all so much.
All right, thank you, Ken. Congratulations.
And that right there was your overall winner at the end of this race, Ken Copeland. Again, those Apex Racing TV like and subscribe things done better than we usually do on the air. How about that, Ken? Hey, well, a job here at Apex Racing TV. Why not write to us at insert email address here. I'll looking through the other interview waiting area, I think I am going to be bringing in our Pro Ben winner of Tyler Gilmet, have a quick chat with the driver who's now gone for 2 straight in the early stages of this season. Tyler, welcome into the commentary booth and congratulations on the win here at Road Atlanta tonight. Talk us through it.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah, we made the switch to the Mustang this week. It was a lot more comfortable. I have a lot more experience in it. Had a good qualifying, which helped kind of keep clear of what may have been some trouble behind in the mid-pack. Tried to keep my nose clean, race hard with the guys up front. Made a mistake, and then made one more into turn 5, trying to avoid a re-entering car. But hey, we held on to it.
Still held on to it rather well, grabbing your second win in a row. The win at Indy 1 week ago and the win at Road Atlanta here tonight, giving you some very good feelings in the opening stages of this season. So I'm sure when the series rocks up to Laguna Seca in 1 week's time, gonna hope to continue that momentum. So what are your thoughts heading into that one?
Yeah, Laguna is going to be an interesting race. It always is. It's hot. It's sandy. The corkscrew is a wild place to be, so I think we'll continue providing this excellent championship fight like we did last season.
And I remember the fight between yourself and Gregory Meismer in those LMP2s one season ago. I think I remember one of you drivers nearly, getting a couple of millimeters away from hitting the barrier coming out of the bus stop at the Glen one season ago. So may have some close quarter stuff like that between now and the end of the season. We will be going to the Glen in a couple of weeks, so who knows, may have a case of deja vu there. But Tyler, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary booth, and congratulations on the win. But before we let you go and celebrate, is there anyone who will give thanks to or shout outs?
Yeah, as always, thank you Operation Motorsport for giving us this opportunity to do this every week. Thanks for you guys for broadcasting it. It's always excellent to watch. And thanks for Trophy AI for coming on and sponsoring our season and helping our beneficiaries get better with their driving.
Awesome, man. Well, congratulations on your second win of the season. Always good to have a chat with you, Tyler, and excited to see you back out on the track at Laguna Seca in 1 week's time. Thank you for joining us.
I'm excited. Thanks, guys.
And that right there was Tyler Gilmet, your winner in the Pro Ben category. Charles, who do you want to have a chat with next?
Let's bring in our Ben winner, Ian Carney, and we'll have a chat with him. Ian, back-to-back wins. Congratulations. Our 4 classes once again with 3 Fords and your Porsche. So obviously you've got that 911 figured out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they should build me one at the factory because I've been racing this thing so much, dragging it around, promoting it. No, I'm playing, but I love the Porsche. It's a good car. If I could afford one, I'd get one in real life. But I had a good time tonight. I thought Pete was gonna get me at one point. I was stuck in a line of cars, and I guess he got stuck even more than I did. So lucky for me, I guess.
I was gonna say it's a 43 car field at Road Atlanta. That made for some really tight racing for a big chunk of this race.
Yeah, it's been so fun, honestly. With everybody, it can be kind of chaotic, but at the same time, if you can stay out of the chaos, it's just that much more fun than just a few less guys.
Absolutely. Well, next week, Laguna Seca. How do you like your chances there?
I don't have as much practice on that one as I do this track. This track was part of the officials a few weeks ago, but Laguna I have not had much time on. So I'm going to have to put in some time there, and hopefully it goes well. I know that track isn't the best for passing, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but... And that corkscrew, man, that'll really throw you for a loop if you're not ready for that one, even in the slightest. So,
yeah, absolutely. So, Ian, congratulations. We'll let you give your thanks and shout outs and continue on, and hope we'll see you next week.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, Charles and Jonathan and Ron for running this broadcast tonight, and thanks to Operation Motorsports for allowing this whole thing to occur. Couldn't be more grateful for the opportunities and the friendships, networking, and everything that I've gained from this operation that we've got going on here. And I just have so much fun every week. Thanks, everybody.
All right, and congratulations. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
And that right there was Ian Carney, your P1 finisher in the beneficiary GT3 category. We also got another podium finisher in that Ben class, Luis Rios, now joining us in the commentary booth. Luis, welcome into the booth here at Apex Racing TV, and well done on the podium in the Ben GT3 class here at Road Atlanta. Talk us through it.
Hey guys, how you guys doing?
We are doing pretty all right. I think my vocal cords are hanging in surprisingly well after that pretty exciting show.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I think the word for this one is luck. A lot of spots where I got lucky, avoiding some wrecks and some slides.
Yeah, we were seeing a lot of close calls all throughout this race and up and down the grid as well around this old school, tight, twisty, narrow, and technical track with not a whole lot of asphalt or on a area to speak of. It is unforgiving around here, but still fun ride nevertheless.
Absolutely, absolutely. You definitely got to be hitting these turns. If not, you're going to lose a good amount of time there, or you're going to end up somewhere you don't want to be.
I think at one point during the broadcast, we saw a driver go off-hang through turn number 1. I think I said something to the effect of, if that outside barrier wasn't there, they probably would have ended up in Key West. So if it goes wrong, it goes really wrong around here, but you were able to piece together a really good race, walking away from this third race of the season with a P3 result. We're going to be marching off to Laguna Seca in 1 week's time. So what are your thoughts heading into the fourth race of the season?
Oh, that's going to be a fun one at Laguna Seca. I think honestly going to be aiming for the same thing that I went for this race, consistency in my laps. You know, try not to rush things and just looking out for these wrecks.
And the old saying, to finish first you have to finish, certainly rings true in some very close quarters GT3 racing action, but still fantastic as always. Luis, thank you so much for joining us in the commentary booth. Well done on the podium. But before we let you go and celebrate, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
A shout out to Operation Motorsports as always, and Apex for you guys hosting and making this possible. You guys always do a great job.
Awesome, man. Hey, well, thank you very much for the kind words, and thank you as well for joining us in the commentary booth. Well done on the podium. Excited to see you back out on the track for the rest of the season, man. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Take it easy.
And that right there was Luis Rios, your P3 finisher in the Pro Ben, not the Pro Ben category, the Ben category. Charles, we got the P2 finisher of Greg Meismer, who finished P2 of the Pro Bens. We got enough time to have a chat with them. You want to bring him in here?
Yeah, let's bring him in here. We'll talk with Greg real quick. Greg, so Greg, we've been kind of talking, here and there this season about the battles that you and Tyler had last season that haven't quite came to fruition this year, and it looks like maybe the qualifying kind of caught you out a little bit, and it was you had a little bit of work to do trying to get back up toward the front of the field.
Yeah. I usually try to get in the session pretty early so I can grab the front pit spot, if I'm to be honest. I don't know if anybody knows that or not. I hope my secret didn't just get out. But yeah, that did not happen today, and I got caught in the middle of everybody during qualifying. I couldn't put in a good lap either. It was just, today just wasn't my day.
Yeah. That happens. So we've got Laguna Seca coming next week. I'm going to say that Porsche should be pretty stout there. Obviously, kind of a difficult track to get some of these cars navigated, but I think the Porsche is going to be one of the better cars next week.
I'm hoping so. I mean, Porsche has their Rennsport meeting there every year for a reason, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. So it's got to be the car for the track. And I'm hoping that me and Tyler were just talking about that in the waiting room. We're really hoping to get to fight sometime this season. It just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I know we're looking forward to it also. So Greg, we'll let you go, and but we'll let you, of course, give you any thanks or shout outs that you want to before we'll let you go, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. I gotta obviously give a shout out to you guys in Operation Motorsport for putting this whole thing on, and my guys over there at VFG and my brother Kyle for working with me all week. Even though we didn't get as much practice as we wanted to this week, hopefully we can get back to the grind before I gotta head out to Sebring on like Wednesday or so. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So is that your call up? Is Sebring?
Yeah. I got on a Porsche Sprint Challenge team, so round 1 out there here in a couple weeks.
Excellent.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Greg. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
And that right there was Greg Meismer, who I guess is going to be out in Sebring in a couple of weeks' time. That's one great thing about Opmo, Charles. I mean, you can speak to this a lot more than I can as a veteran yourself, but all the wonderful stuff that they do for veterans, getting them involved in motorsports all across the U.S., Canada, and just North America, period. Hearing stories like that from some of these drivers from time to time is always really cool to hear.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the whole point of having the beneficiaries. Is these are the guys that Operation Motorsport are working with to put them and place them with real life racing teams. And as you heard Greg saying, he's going to be with a Porsche Sprint team. I know we've got a couple of guys who work with one of the GT4 teams in the Michelin Pilot Challenge. So I mean, this is what it's all about, and the stuff we do here on Tuesday nights is just the fun of it.
Yeah, and I gotta say, from my perspective, as someone who I don't think they would probably allow into the military, I'd be too much of a goofball for any to ever be a member of any armed forces. I gotta say, being a part of a series like this is always wonderful, and being a part of this brand new season is going to be a tremendous ride. And hey, the action does not stop here tonight, as this upcoming week we've got a lot of action here on Apex Racing TV. Now, round number 10 of the Radical Esports Cup official series that you can catch on Friday nights. Charles and I are going to be on the call for the DRSCCA Sim Racing Series presented by Super Lap. That will be round number 3, fittingly at Laguna Seca. And Ken Copeland, our winner tonight, along with Robert Schwenkler, used to be some drivers in the Rikmatech World Challenge, which you can catch Jonathan on the production duties for every single Monday night here on Apex Racing TV. But as for tonight's broadcast of the Operation Motorsports Racing League, I think that will just about do it. And so, for myself, Ron Mullins, Mr. Charles Bichelle joining me in the commentary booth, and Jonathan Grabaski doing a wonderful job working on the cameras in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so much for watching. Have a great rest of your night, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.